mute the audio on my computer because it's just going to be that loud explosion sound they use for shooting Nerf balls in the demo. And I don't really want to hear that or have you hear it. Alright, looks like we are streaming. I will tell the world. It's yet again a very cold day here in Boston, and it's cold enough that my hands hurt, but we're going to see whether or not we can do some stuff. So I'm working on hands. I'm working on creating the IK hands. And I know that Unreal does IK, but all the IK tutorials are, here's how you set up a 3D character model with a riggable skeleton, and then here's how you import the animations, and then here's how you do this, and here's how you do that. Oh, and by the way, IK is over here, because apparently there's this giant backlog of things you have to have before you can do IK. So I just hacked together some IK in the blueprints without actually needing to to do the animation-based IK that we seem to be focused on. And it works fine, so this is what we're going to use for now at least. Once I create a rigged skeleton, I will undoubtedly create something a little bit more nuanced. But for now, we're just going to set up some hands. This hand here is very basic, obviously. We're basically going to use this, add it into our add it into our character system, and what we're going to do is we are going to switch off which arm we're using based on whether or not we are grabbing something right now. So just in case you've forgotten, the basic play involves grabbing things and going up. Oh, I missed that one up, but you can see what I'm trying to get at here. Yeah, just up we go. Oh, I'm stuck on the door frame. I have to work on the door frame. We'll have to figure out exactly where the player's character collider is and stuff like that. But as you can see, this would make a lot more sense if we had arms and not these trashy starter arms, but something with some IK attached to it. If we take a look at these trashy starter arms, these are the arms in question, and they are animatable arms. I could probably use them for the IK system. It's a separate mannequin arms. You know what? Let's go ahead and try and set up some IK using the mannequin arms. Just because that'll be more compatible with our long-term goals. To do that, we're going to go ahead and create a new blueprint. I guess it would be best if it was an actor, because it's going to be within a character, but it's not a character itself. We're going to call this animated arms. Open up some animated arms here, and we're going to go ahead and add that component, which I believe is a skeletal mesh. Arms. And we should be able to pick the skeletal mesh here. Arms. There we are. Boom. So this is the skeletal mesh for our arms. And now the key here is that we are going to have to create another animation class for it. I'm just taking a look here at what we've got. Presumably this is the one that's currently in use. Can we just track it down? So here it is. Let's go ahead and take a look at it and just see what it's got inside. The event graph here, update animation. If it's valid, then so all this does is determine whether or not we're moving, I guess, in the air or on the ground. These are the variables involved. Presumably those are used to just determine which idle we're using. Yeah, so this is very, very basic. No big deal at all. We're going to go ahead and use our own blueprint here. I wanted to see what class of blueprint this was, but I'm not sure. It's an animation blueprint. So in theory, we can just use the same animation blueprint base class. I wasn't sure if there was a specific blueprint that I needed to use for IK stuff. And we're going to want to use the mannequin arms as the skeletal target. There we go. And we'll call this I don't even remember how to spell mannequin. We'll call it test IK. Pop that open over here. Beautiful, beautiful. So if we take a look, this is the animation graph, but over here we don't actually have an animation graph visible. There's no animation graph open. Here it is. So I'm not sure what this does. I'm not very familiar with the animation system. I guess we're just going to fake it until we make it. Let's go ahead and choose our test IK and MVP. There it is. Beautiful. And we're going to see what we can put together over here. So we're going to save this. And we're just going to put it into the game world separately from our character. This is something that we're going to want to do just to test the animations. We'll obviously need to hook it up to some kind of animation control system based on the main characters, whether or not there's, clickable grabs and stuff like that. But for now, we're just going to do it very basic. So we've got this here. We are going to need to set up an animation input and some other details. I just don't know where the IK comes from. Hand IK retargeting. Why would it be called retargeting? Leg IK, spline IK, two bone IK. So I don't know what this is. Why would it... Is this a way to mirror it? Is that what's going on here? Here's the two bone IK function. This is what I use for the version we've got now, because it's not an animation specific node, but the rest of these are. So if we were to put this two bone IK in, you can see what it looks like. Just to show you the difference here, if we pull up the actual floating arms blueprint, this is the node we're using, the two bone IK function. You can see it takes in a bunch of vector 3s, and it outputs just a pair of vector 3s. Whereas with the animation, it takes in only two vector 3s, as well as a component pose. I'm not sure what that is. And then it outputs a component pose. I think what it does is it modifies the component pose based on the IK, but I don't know how it knows what an elbow is, which bones are the arm. How does it know which bones to target? Maybe I'll put this off and do it off screen. We'll do it off screen. It's going to be the same basic setup regardless of whether I do it using the animation tool or the blueprint tool. So for today, we're going to do it using the blueprint tool. The floating arms we're using are very, very oversized. Here they are. Right now, these floating arms are 2 meters long, which is a bit large, but it should be relatively easy to resize them. I think we'll go ahead and see whether or not we can add them into the first person character that we're using. I'm not really sure if we can. I've never tried nested blueprints in this game. Presumably it's something that's quite easy. I just have never had to do it. So over here we have these arms, which are going to go away now. The only question is whether or not that's going to cause us grief. Here's the cast point and here's the hand. We're going to need these, but we'll delete them for now. The question is whether or not there is going to be a problem compiling now that we've deleted a lot of stuff. Yeah. So here we can see we are finding the ledges and handles, and we are... Oh, those are mine. Or undo, undo, undo. So that should be fine. The spheres and the cast points, those are mine. All right. So I've deleted the arms, and now we are going to add the arms back in. But, of course, a different kind of arm. We should be able to add it, but I don't know where it comes from. Floating arms? No, that's floating pawn movement. I think we can just drag it in. Let's drag it in. See how big they are? Huge! We'll call this right arm. And you can see that this is a radically oversized arm. And that's going to be an issue. I can see already that we have this setup that will work fine. We're going to attach it to the first-person camera because that's where everything else is attached. And we're just going to make sure that nothing goes horribly wrong here. We've got 2 red balls, but those are going to be unified into 1 red ball without too much delay. So it works. Now this red ball that you can see that red ball underneath the first red ball? We've got 2 red balls. We're going to just make them the same red ball. It's that easy. So to do that, we are going to... That's the Twitch channel. This is what I meant to drag on. Here we are. The issue here is that one of these red balls is actually part of the right arm mesh, the floating arms object here. This ball here. We're going to want to make that something we can set as a variable, which I think we already can. I think that we're probably going to want to make it manually. I'm trying to think about whether or not I can just... See, I saw earlier, I saw some components here that I think we can actually change into... There's a way to do this really fast and easy, but I don't happen to know it, so we're going to do it the slow way here. I'm going to create a new variable, which we will call target, and it won't work because there's already something named target, so we're going to go ahead and call it nothing. We'll go over here and call this target old, and then this we'll call target. We're going to open that up. We're going to set that as an actor. There we are. Boom. Expose on spawn. And that should do it for now. So then over here in the event graph, we've got to slot in our new target instead of the target old, which should be pretty easy. We just drop it in there and do a get. Now that's a set. How did I hit set? With my mouse, presumably. There we are. And just drop that in. Boom. Root component. Okay, so get world location is not the right. It's fine. There is almost certainly a correct get world location. It's just get actor location. I hope that this is in world coordinates, but I guess I won't know until we try it. So I believe that's the only place that we use the target. I mean, there's some other things called target, but those are not related. They're just sharing a name here. So when we delete the target old here, where it is, there it is. We should just be able to hit delete, and there it goes. Compile it, save it. And we're going to want to add in just a little bit of a notice, I guess. We should be able to switch this over into a variable get. What is it? Convert. There it is. Validated get. We're going to convert this into a validated get, but we don't need to, do we? Let's go ahead and do it anyway. It would be wise of us to bulletproof this a little bit because it's something that could easily go wrong and be forgotten. Excuse me. There we are. Now it should be able to complain if we don't set it up right. And if I hit play here, we should see it complain. because we are always one in the world here. Yeah, see. So that's great. It works fine. We'll delete the one in the world because we do not need that giant stack of errors. Where was it? There it is. I am full of sneezes today. That's going to be an issue, I think. Cold, but still full of allergies. Great combination you've got going here, Boston. All right, so here it is, and what we're going to do is set the variable on the right arm. Where is it? I don't understand. Shouldn't I be able to see the variable? Do I have to set it during the construction script? Let's try setting it during the construction script. So we should be able to set target. Why can't I set the target? What's going on here? There it is. I didn't expect this to be the hard part. It's one of those things where it's probably really easy and I just can't figure it out. See, this is the thing I don't understand. How can we set the variable of right arm? Right arm is the name of a child object. It's not a variable. This is why I was confused about the target, because if I can do this, then couldn't I just set the target variable, even though it's actually a child component? But whether I can set it here or not, I certainly can't change the variable in this situation. Do I have to change it so that it's not exposed on spawn? So that it's is it something that where if it's set as exposed on spawn, that's the only time it's ever exposed? Do I have to recompile? This should not be this hard. This should be super, super basic, but for some reason I can't get it to show up. I don't know what's going on. I didn't, I guess, you know, most weeks I'm like, oh, it was easier than I thought. And this week it's like, I can't get the basics to even think about working. I can't figure out how to set a variable. So when I click on this object itself, I can't get at any of the variables I created. I can get at parent socket. I guess I could use the object and then manually update the object from this situation, but that seems like it would be a huge pain in the ass. All right, so let's delete the right arm and try again. So this is actually telling it to spawn the object in. So the child actor doesn't actually exist. It's a marker telling the game to spawn the child character in. But even though we have it set to expose on spawn, there doesn't appear to be any ability to actually expose it here. So do I have to cast it to floating arms? It should be a class floating arms already. So this is a class child actor component, not a class floating arms. Okay, so the problem here is that it thinks that this is a generic child class and not a floating arms cast. So we're going to cast it to floating arms. Chapow. Wait, this doesn't have any out. I mean, it's already got the child actor class set. Why do I have to set it twice? And there's no out pin. So set child actor class is probably not what I want. I want to cast it, not set it. Well, here's the class. Why can I cast this, but not this? So this is a child actor component object reference. Would it be easier if I created variables? Let's try it. So we're going to call this right arm. And we are going to set this as a floating arms. There we are. And then we are obviously going to set the default to this. Why did that not work? Why can't I? Look, it's floating arms. Editing this value in a class default object is not allowed? The fuck is going on? So this is a variable I can only set in instances. No, I can still not set it. This is really not... Internet says there's 2 ways to expose a var, blueprint comms, and blueprint interfaces. I mean, it explicitly says expose on spawn and expose to cinematic. I don't know how to do blueprint comms or blueprint interfaces, but why is this so hard? I've done this before. It's not hard to communicate with subobjects. It's something that we do regularly when doing animations, and what little animations I've done have always involved setting variables on other graphs. So I'm not sure why this is suddenly such a nightmare. But if I can set an interface, that's what I'll do. I don't know how, though. Get components by interface. Gets all the components. So I would need to add an interface of some kind, right? Like here. Nope. Ah, here it is, blueprint interface. Fucking interface. Glitch. Come on. So here's the fucking interface kludge. You can see that I've never opened this before because it's desperate to teach me all about how to do it. Blueprint interfaces. This is an advanced feature allowing you to create a collection of functions. The blueprint editor adapts to the blueprint you're editing. Level blueprints. Wow, I don't care about level blueprints. You can go away. You are, in fact, not very useful. So it's probably not going to be of any value. Why is this marked as read-only? Yeah, we'll go ahead and not do that. All right, so apparently there is quite a barrier here. I made this arm have a public variable, but I can't set the public variable because the game engine doesn't understand that the arm is of a specific class, despite the fact that the arm is explicitly named as that specific class. Even if I create a variable that's that specific class, I'm not allowed to set the variable, which is truly, truly bonkers. What the fuck is this? Editing this value in a class default. Let's search that, because that is nonsense. Unreal, editing this value in a class default is, yeah, there. It is impossible for a blueprint to reference an actor instance by default, even if it's inside of the blueprint. Oh, this one guy, he's just repeating his question over and over and over. And this guy has discovered how to do it in C++. I do not want to have to specify a variable in C++ because blueprints just won't make it public. That's fucking stupid. Yeah, so evidently this is just going to be a stupid nightmare. There's something wrong. I can't use level blueprints. It's not a level. It's an instantiated object. The only thing I can think of is... no, I can't do it that way either. So I was thinking I could just like spawn these in and attach them to anchor points in the construction script. But I can't fucking do that because I can't specify what to spawn in. I'm not allowed to specify that, you know, this floating arm is a thing. Hold on, I can do it in the construction script. Child actor component object reference is not compatible with floating arm construction. So I think that what the problem here is that there is a difference. How about the arm in a separate blueprint? Well, that's exactly what I've done. This is the floating arm's blueprint. And this works fine. It's just the arm in a blueprint, and it looks like shit, but it works. When I add the blueprint to the first-person character, it can't be linked up properly. I can't tell it to do things. I need to be able to move the grab point around, and I can't do that from the character controller because the floating arms class apparently will not allow the parent object to set any variables or interact with it in any way. And I think that the problem here is that there is some difference between the object classes that are actually instantiated in the game world and the object classes that are stand-ins in this mode of editing for objects that will eventually become instantiated in the game world. This is not a floating arms object. It is a child actor component object, which spawns in the floating arms. But unfortunately, there's no fucking way to get the floating arms out of it. Maybe there is, and I just don't know it. So here, this is a target with a little bluppity blups. I don't know what the bluppity blups mean. What does this bluppity blups mean? I have no way of knowing. No, none of these are the actual target in question. Is this... Actor object reference is not compatible with floating arms object reference. Is the floating arms not an actor? Did I screw up and make the floating arms something weird? Oh, I made it a pawn. Okay, well, I guess the problem might be that floating arms is just a fucking pawn. So we're going to go ahead and create a new floating arms that's not a pawn, and we'll see whether or not we can get that to work. So we're going to rename this floating arms to floating arms pawn. And now I see the little... figurine stands for pawn. So we're going to go ahead and create a new blueprint class that's not a pawn, it's an actor. And we're going to call this floating arms actor. Pop that up here. So this is going to be our floating arms actor. And the way we're going to create it is we are going to copy all of this shit and paste it in. Exciting, exciting stuff. And over here in the event graph, we are just going to do the same basic setup. There are, however, some variables here that we would have to copy. That's the first person controller. Move. Target is the only variable we're going to need. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. Target with a capital T, I guess. I don't remember using it as a capital T. Actor. So if we go back over here, I called it with a capital T. That's fine. So now we've got this set up, and the last step is to copy the event graph, which hopefully will just work. I don't need to copy the bullshit nodes. There, just these nodes. Can I just paste it? Oh, look at that. It looks like it survived wholly intact. Even the target... That looks like it might have just worked. Let's find out. So if we drop the floating arms actor into the game world here, and we hit play, we should get a whole bunch of invalid targets. Perfect. So now floating arms actor is an actor. So I think the problem might have been that I had a pawn rather than an actor. We're going to find out real soon here. Why is it? So the asset is floating arms pawn. I see. But the child actor component is what confused me, because I thought it was just an actor because it's a child actor component. What we're going to do instead is change this variable to a floating arms actor. Object reference. We'll find out. Change variable type. Yes. And now that we've got it as an actor, we still can't set it. Well, let's go ahead and put it into the game world here. So here it is, our giant arm. Whoa, it's huge. And in this case, still called a child actor component. I still can't access any of the variables from there, but I didn't really expect to be able to. The question is whether or not I can hit them from anywhere else. Look, it's got the same like big and little thing. I thought that was for pawns, but it might be. This looks like it might be just exactly the same. I don't think this helped. I do not understand what's going on here. Mifaz asks, the variables are only exposed in runtime. I don't think so, and that's the issue. It should be accessible. I've seen this accessible before. Child actor object component references talk about a floating arms object. So how about this? So can I cast this to floating arms? Okay. I'm not going to say that this is an ideal setup. This seems like it's a lot of garbage to go through to get this to work, and I'm not even sure if it's going to work. So now that I've set this... Fucking NVIDIA! Alright, hold on. I've got to reboot everything at the moment of triumph, or the moment of more failure. I got the new version of the NVIDIA drivers. I updated them. I was like, oh, look, they've updated. I'm sure that they fixed this stupid fucking bug. But they haven't. Now, tell me about there we are. So it's odd that they didn't reopen the editor. Usually it reopens the editor. It didn't want to in this case. I'm not sure why. So we're going to have to open it manually here. All right. Look, there it is. Fucking hell, that was miserable. Oh boy, they named the same thing. Brilliant. And so, of course, obviously what we want to do is use this same... Is it the sphere that we're using? Let's just check and see what we're actually using as the object. Hand. We're using the hand, so it's that ball there. So it's no big deal. We'll just slot that in. Static mesh component object reference is not compatible. So if I were to create a new actor, I don't, what's just a, it is really being aggressive about the not doing any auto casting at all actor. So can we cast it as an actor? No. That works, but I don't think it's going to be right. I suppose we'll find out in a minute here. This is some grade A nonsense. And I think that the issue here is just that it's being approached in a radically different way than I expected. So what I expected to do was have to cast it to floating arms so that we would be able to set the target here. But in order to do that, I have to cast it from a floating arms object that I've put into the blueprint, into a floating arm object that I've put into the blueprint, into a floating arm object that I put into the blueprint. I guess that's right. Cast it to the same thing 3 times because each of those different things is slightly in a different part of the engine and therefore counts as a completely uncastable object. Why isn't this returning a floating arm object? Why isn't that the thing that it does in the blueprint? Because clearly I want access to the floating arm object. It should be just like a big, this is obviously what you want, here it is, sort of thing. And I can't, I don't know. I presumably just am coming at it from the wrong mindset, but that was fucking annoying. Now we don't even know if it works. We're going to find out shortly here. It didn't work. So if we take a look at what we've got going with this arm, we can't actually select the floating arms actor. Where are you? Oh, we can delete you. We can't actually select it because it's inside of the other object. Can we select it from here? Yes, okay. So we can select it from here, but not from here because fuck you. So this doesn't help because it's it's the same child actor object. It's not the actual thing we created. So here is the floating arms actor, and I'm not getting the error. So maybe the error was just coming from the one I had left over in the system. But this is again a child actor component. So where are the floating arms? The only floating arms are the ones I can't select. Why can't I select them? How am I supposed to know what's going on if I can't look at them? And they're not reacting properly. So the question is whether or not they're reacting wrong because I've set the target wrong, because I had to cast the target in order to set it, or what. The problem is I don't know what counts as an actor. I thought that a static mesh component was an actor. So if I wanted to add an actor, what would I want to add? There doesn't seem to be an empty actor class. I don't see any empty actors. So how do people normally arrange their setups? Now I'm thinking what the problem here is that the actor is a container object is what I'm thinking the problem here is. Yeah. So if actor is a container class, then you can't add an actor to an actor. All you can do is add a class that spawns an actor to an actor. And that's the heart of this issue. So I'm trying to think in terms of actors, because in Unity you can have nested actors forever. You can have as many game objects inside game objects inside game objects as you'd like. In Unreal, that is evidently not the case. And even if you do end up with game objects or actors inside of actors, it's not something that you are allowed to click on, because for some reason clicking on it doesn't work. So here I am in the floating arm setup here, and I've turned on simulation, and we're going to see whether or not I can get the target from the simulation here. None. All right, we're going to change target to a component. What is the parent of a static mesh? Presumably it's component or something, right? We'll just use static mesh for now. It's fine. So if we switch this from actor to static mesh component, there it is. We can at least use it for now. And then we should be able to here we are. So you can see that this is an error. It's full of nonsense. So I don't believe we can just set this up. No, I've got to get my own location, just location. Get world location. We're back to world location. That's fine by me. And we'll just drop that into the effector. Delete this. All right, so now when we set this, boom, there we go, and this can be deleted. And theory, that should work. So, yeah, look, it worked. Now, of course, the other issue here is that we normally just disable the ball when we are not using it. But it would make more sense for us to pull the ball back to a neutral position so that it doesn't just leave our arm sticking up like that. So we're going to come up with a neutral position for the ball, and we're going to move it back to that neutral position instead of whatever we're doing now. So to create that neutral position, we are going to just create a static mesh to be our target here. We are going to want to hide it, I guess. And we'll just move it here. And then that should do. We're going to want to change this elbow position, I think, though, because I think it's going to end up snapping backwards. We will call this right arm rest pause. And then this, we'll call this right arm. Oh, I already have something called right arm. We'll call this right arm actor. But I think we can get away with it. Well, we're going to need the right arm variable for lots of things, so we're going to leave it like that for now. So the other thing we need to do is that instead of just setting the visibility to false, we are going to want to move it to a new location here. So basically, the condition that we're looking at is whether or not the sphere trace hit anything. If it didn't hit something, we're going to want to set the world location to the position of our right arm rest position here. All right, so there you can see our resting arm. It is not as bad as I thought it would be in terms of being completely backwards, but it is bad in terms of our shoulder actually being in front of our head. We're going to want to fix that, I think. So we'll just move this back. Yeah, see, that's what I was expecting. See that glitchiness? That glitching is because our elbow is in a bad position for the kind of compression that we're trying to get. See how the elbow is this white joint here. If we go over into the floating arms actor, we're just going to want to move this elbow so that it doesn't suck quite as bad. That should do. No, it's even worse. Not having very good luck today. Lots of bullshit stuff happening. Guess we can just move this off to the side and forward a little bit. And then over here in the first person character, oh, I don't want to move them. Back up. There's the right arm rest position. We'll just move that and hope for the best. The fuck is going on? Why is it doing that? So the way that the IK system works is, the hand shouldn't be there. We'll work on that later. The way that the IK system works is that it doesn't use any permanent objects as its base. The moving arm you see is just a visual representation of what some static calls get. Now, the static calls do use some objects as references, but those objects never move and never change. So the fact that it can do this makes no sense, because the elbow shouldn't be moving around. Maybe I accidentally slotted the elbow into the object. Let's take a look here. Here's our floating arm actor. Here is our bend direction. That's just the elbow in question. It's not inside of anything else, is it? Wait. Why are these inside of the upper arm? That's not right. I must have, when I cut and pasted it, it must have cut and pasted it wrong. That explains why we were getting some weirdities. Basically, all of this shit is independent. You don't want it attached to anything. It's all its own deal, except for these cube visuals. Those are in the correct spot. Yeah, that's more like what I expected to see. Now we can move the arm position back a little bit so that it makes a little bit more sense. There we are. Interesting place for the hand out there. I guess I have some error codes, some errored code in my hand. That's okay. So here you can see that what we've got is we've got the arm moving to the next position like that. So what we actually want is two arms, and we'll just alternate between them. So to do that, we are going to need to duplicate these, and we will call them... Oh, look at that. They spawn inside of each other. That's such a weird thing to have happen. I don't know why it's set up like that. Huh. And basically, all we really need to do is have these actors be on the other side of the character. It looks like when I copied them, they ended up moving. So I guess we're going to delete these and to try again. So in order to get this to be right, we're going to need to reverse the x coordinate. Nope, sorry, it's not x. Reverse the y coordinate. There we are. X is forward for some reason. And then we're going to want to reverse it here as well, because the elbow position is off to the side. See that? It also means that if we have like a hand mesh we're using, we'll be able to just reverse that. We're going to call this a left arm actor. We're going to copy and paste the position here. Flip it to. We'll call that left arm rest puzz. And then we're going to want to duplicate this. Call that left arm. Over here in the construction script, we're going to want to do this batshit stuff one more time here. Let's compress it down a little bit. Move! Move! And we can just cut and paste. And then, of course, this is going to be left arm actor rather than right arm actor. And we're going to set left arm rather than right arm. Now that both of the arms have been set to use the same target, so now we should see both hands reaching forward to grab whatever we're looking at. One of them seems to be upside down, which we'll deal with in a minute here. So the left arm, I inverted on the x-axis, and I think that might have confused the hell out of it, because as you can see, it is still moving to the right. Now, I bet what the issue here is that the actor that gets spawned in, or the system, yeah, it's an actor. The actor that gets spawned in doesn't actually inherit the scaling of the spawner, of the thing that spawns it in. Because I think that what's happening here is that the arm is not inverting, so we're having a left arm that moves to the right. One way around that is simply to make this elbow directly underneath the arm again, which is what we'll do for now. We'll figure it out later. I just screwed it up. I clicked on something I didn't mean to. Too late now. And then over here in the viewport, we are going to not bother to invert this because it doesn't appear to be of any use. Hit play and look down at our arms. Okay. Is our rest position, are we using the right arm rest position for both? That's probably what it is. So we'll go ahead and fix that. No big deal. We can simply hand. Oh, you know what? We're not treating the rest positions separately. So we've got a hand. We're going to need to have two hands. So let's just copy it. And we'll call one of these hands right hand and one of them left hand. Call it right hand target and left hand target. So obviously we're going to use the left hand target here. And then in the event graph, we are going to have to determine which arm we're going to use. Now, right now we're only moving the right arm. What we need to do is switch off which arm we're using, right hand or left hand, based on whether or not one of those arms is currently in use. So to do that, we are going to use some switches. So let's go ahead and make some space for ourselves. And we'll just expand this for now. And then we'll do some switches. So I believe we should be able to get a switch out of these. I just don't know. It's not called switch, is it? It's called select. So we want to select between two of these. I just don't know how to do it. Let's see, if I drag this out and then type select mesh blocks, that's not right. Return. Is this going to work? Yes, it will. Okay, good. So we'll just use this. It looks like it's a generic select. I think that's what the little backwards E means. Not sure. And we're going to want to know whether or not the right arm is currently in use. So to check whether the right arm is currently in use, we're just going to see whether or not grabbable is valid. Right arm, left arm, where is grabbable? It's right fucking here. Here it is. It's a component. Oh, I got confused by this before too. Like I said, there's some nonsense that I don't understand about what counts as a variable, what counts as a component, what counts as an actor. And it's quite confusing. So basically, we're going to check and see whether or not this is valid. Now, if we've already grabbed an object, then we want to use the left arm. And if we haven't, we're going to want to use the right arm. So we'll just, no, that's not what I want to copy. Don't do that. We'll use the left arm rest position here. And basically, just copy this Now, will this be another generic select if I use this here? So these are the targets that we're going to be supplying. And it's just a left-hand target. And then we should be able to drop these into all of the same places. Oh, but here... No, let's leave it. I'm a little bit worried that we might have... Why are these... What? Why is right-hand target... How can... Oh, these are sets. That's why. Okay, so we're going to have to delete this and then re-add it. Or manually detach it from like 50 things. Some of these can take multiple inputs, and that's what was confusing me. All right, so this should work, maybe. We're going to find out in the near future here. So we've got two arms. There they are. One of them is still malfunctioning. We'll figure that out. Here we can see our right arm. When we click, you can see our left arm gets added to the fray. And then the problem is that our arm is attached to the character, which means that once it gets set, see how it's set here? It's not affixed to the target object where we put it. It's affixed to us. So because of that, when we move, it moves. This means that whenever we have a target collision, we need to preserve where it is supposed to be stuck so that the arm stays on whatever it's grabbing rather than drifting around with us. So to that end, all we have to do is add some more variables. The question is what we need to do. I think that we're going to need to have 2 vector 3s, but we'll start with just one. I mean, per hand. So we're going to call this right arm grip location. Instance editable. I don't think we need that. And then this is going to be left arm grip location. And basically, if we have something that's been grabbed, we are going to have to set the location. So first thing we have to do is actually set the location. So up here, when we do this set world location, we're going to have to add in the right or left grip location as well. All right, so I don't want this to get complicated. So what we do when we set the grabbable object, this is us trying to grab something, and we've now set the grabbable object to the thing we're trying to grab. We also have to set the correct hand grabbed location. So no, we only have to do that when we actually grab. So up here, we're actually setting the grabbed object. See that? We're going to want to set the right arm grip location when we do that. So the issue here is that we're not going to be we're not always going to prefer to set the right arm. We're going to set whatever arm is doing the grabbing, and that might be the left arm. So I guess we're going to need a Boolean that just switches between the arms. It's not even going to be a Boolean, is it? It's going to be an enum. Can I set an enum? I should be able to set an enum. Used arm. Our current busy arm. Current busy limb. Can we set this to an enum? I think we would have to make an enum. Let's see if I can make an enum. Okay. enumeration. There it is. So here's our enums. We'll just say the limb grabbing shit right now. And we're going to create a couple of these. We're going to create right hand, left hand, and that's going to be it for now. Save that. And we're going to come over here, and this is going to be a, what did I call it? Gripping limb. Come on. There we are. So now that it's an editable gripping limb, we should be able to fetch the variables associated with it. But this is a situation where I really do need that packing. I really do need that ability to treat these as a coherent object. It's an object-oriented approach. I need to have an arm that is just a standalone object. What I've been doing is I've been treating the right and left hand targets as their own thing, but what I should be doing instead is treating the right arm dot target instead, because the right arm dot target will resolve to that, but it's completely object oriented instead. So in order to do that, let's just make sure that works first. So over here, when we do this right-hand target, we're going to instead try to grab the right arm target. Yeah, like that. Perfect. So what that means is that we should be able to get the currently used arm or the off arm. So that could be its own function, right? I can create a function somehow. Function. Here it is. We're going to create a function called get used arm. It's not an arm though, it's a limb. Get used limb. And we'll also make one called get unused limb. So the basic idea here is that we are going to want to return a arm. What are they called? A floating arm? Floating arms actor. Boom. So we're going to return one of these nodes depending on our current busy limb. So can we do a select based on this? Yeah. So this is good. This is great. This is great. This is so easy now that we're doing something that Unreal wants us to do. As long as you know how Unreal wants you to do it, it's super basic. The hard part is when Unreal, a current busy limb, so this would be the opposite since we're currently editing unused limb. And later on we'll take into account things like whether or not we need to use our feet. But for now this is fine. And we're going to want to switch over to used limb, and it's the same basic setup, so we'll just copy it. Ciao. And of course our return node needs to be hooked up, but I'm not sure that that's going to work. We might have to actually, oh, looks like it did work. Hooray. And of course we're going to have to make this set up correctly there. Perfect, 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 perfect. So we're going to compile that. We're going to come back over to the event graph, and we're going to start to really use this a little bit more cleanly. So here you can see this setup down here, which we're not going to be using. We're going to be doing the get used limb function instead. So, oh, look at that. Once again, NVIDIA has shit itself. Hold on. I've got to reboot everything. These enforced breaks are fantastic for my productivity. All right. Welcome back. All right, so we've got these functions, and we need to put them here into this graph. So when we come down here, rather than grabbed object is grabbed, all that jazz, we're going to be doing get unused arm, or get current busy limb. Shouldn't this be called current ready limb? Busy limb? I guess it doesn't matter. We'll fix it later if we need to. So we're just going to do get unused limb. And the getting of the unused limb, why would it have a target self? That's correct, I hope. And then the new param, it's called new param because I'm an idiot. It should really be called arm or limb. That's fine. What does pure mean? I think that means static. It doesn't really matter. So if we get the unused limb, this is going to provide us with all of the details we need here. So set visibility is completely pointless. We're going to want to start to change some of this, how some of this works. So here, this is going to get our unused limb, which is going to be the currently active hand. Or rather, the currently able to be activated hand. And once we do that, we're going to set visibility hides the red ball, but we don't need that, so we're going to delete it. This branch here determines whether we have collided with something or not. If we've collided with something, then we want to move the object, the target object, into the right spot. Otherwise, we want to move it to the neutral spot. Now, currently the neutral spot is arm specific, which isn't really going to be doing us any favors. Trying to think about how to make the arm specific resting spot. I guess it should be something that's inside of the limb. But for now, we'll just create a neutral resting position. We're just going to call this arm rest pause. And we'll put it in the middle here. And then we're not going to use this one. So, all right. So if we just use a generic arm rest pause, and that's going to be our world position here. Just move this down so it's not quite in the way. There we are. And that's going to be what happens when we go to neutral. When we aren't going to neutral, though, we are going to want to use this limb and the various pieces of it. And that's going to mean the target and once again, we've got these multiple inputs that we don't need. Just delete that. And this. And this. All right, so this will move our arm to the correct location. It'll move the target of the arm to the position we want it. This is going to be fine, but we also have to set the limb's gripping position when we tell it to stop doing its thing. That's going to be something we're going to want to do in the floating arms actor itself. Here we've got this event tick. We are going to want the ability to set a vector 3 world enforced position. Use world position, or force world position. World pause override, we'll call it that. And then we're also going to want to have another one, which we are going to call world pause. Vector. And basically, currently we get the target here, and basically we do all of this calculation. In between there, we're going to want to determine whether or not we have to switch it. So this world pause needs to be able to do a switch, an execution switch branch. So this branch will allow us to do different things depending on whether or not we are overriding the target position. So here we're going to delete this. We don't need it. Don't need it. If we are overriding the target position, then what we're going to want to do is come up here and set the target world pause, the target to the target world pause. So set world position. To target world position. Now, the only reason that this is inside of the arm is to keep it object-oriented so that we don't have to have any logic in the character controller to try and remember which arm position is where. If we keep that inside the arm, we're going to be able to just, ignore it. And that's what we'd like. So here in the first-person character, when we decide that we're going to grab something, which happens here, see this, we're going to want to set the arm to use the world position. So here we have set this grabbed object. We're going to want to get the unused arm, which is just a function. This one. So we get the unused limb. I'll just do that over here, I think. So what are we getting? Grabbable object? Okay. I think we're going to need to do this before we get that. So we're just going to expand everything. Move this back. Put that here. We're also going to need the used limb, so all right, so if we are releasing, you know what, these should just be functions. Yes, they can just be functions. If we come back over here to the floating arms actor, what we can do is we can create a public function or a thing. With what we do here is that the target world position, if it's false, we can just reverse this. So it would be set the target world position. And then we just get that world position, which is right here. We'll just move this up, put it on top, and set it. And let's arrange this so it's a little bit less. What the hell? Not exactly a masterful layout job, but the basic idea here is that the target world position is going to be set every frame unless it's the one doing the setting. So there we are. And then when we want to actually have this work, we can simply set or unset the one Boolean that our arm actually uses. So over here we have this split where we are setting or unsetting the grabbable object. And to do that, we're going to want to just piggyback on these lines with a couple of sets of our own. So if we are getting the unused limb here, we should be able to do the set What did I call it? Look, I can set them. See these? Set world position override. There it is. And this is just the same basic setup, but okay, so there's a couple of different things that are going on here. We've got three possible branches, three possible ways that things unfold here. One of the ways that things unfold is that you're grabbing your very first object. Your hands are free, and you grab an object. Another one is that you've now grabbed the same object twice. And the third one is that you didn't grab an object, you let go. Those three things have completely different paths that they need to take. Now here, we've only got two paths due to the way that this currently works. So if the grabbed object is equal to the grabbable object, we set pull up. And so our three branches are 1, 2, and 3, with this one branching again based on whether or not pull up is true. So that determines whether or not we need to set the value on the currently active limb, or switch the limbs, or whatever. I'm not sure if I can. So we're currently using current busy limb here. I think we're going to want to do a function to switch limbs, because I don't think that the logic for inverting an enum is as straightforward as you might think. So you can see we can set it, but the value that we're setting it to, I don't believe we can negate it, right? No. We could cast it to an integer, but we're going to want to do this instead, right? No, that's the opposite of what we want. We're on a branch. There's no branch. What's the if for an enum? So this is a generic select, which I guess we can use. Yeah, okay. So if it's right hand, then it's left hand, and if it's left hand, then it's right hand. Now the reason we're doing it like this is because when legs come along, it's going to get a little bit more complicated, right? So this is basically how we're going to do it. We're going to switch them like that. So save that and recompile it. Over here in the event graph, there are three possible setups. Can I add like large comment blocks? Yeah. So because of those three branches, what we're going to want to do is actually physically create those three branches. So let's give ourselves some space. This is way too big. Come on, the pixel that I need, please. Oh, fuck you. All right, so if we have three different branches that we need to take, we'll cut off here, and then we'll move into the three separate branches. And right now there are only two branches, but that is fine. So what we want to do here is we want to do a branch instead of a set. We're still going to do a set, but we need to do a branch too. So we'll do the set and then we'll do the branch. All right, so here is where we set the movement mode to flying. The movement mode will already be flying if we were already doing a grab. So this only needs to be done if it's false. God, I can't move the camera while I'm dragging. That is a terrible oversight on Unreal's behalf. So this is how it's going to work. And we're just going to have this not be the case. All right, so the three things that we're doing here are pull up, switch, and let go. If we're pulling up, then we're going to want to switch arms. Now, when we want to do the switching arms, we're going to want to release the thing that we're currently using, and then we're going to want to switch arms. We're going to want to cement the thing on the other arm. So these arms, yeah. So this is what we're doing, but the problem is that there's no easy way to store these unused limb variables. I think it would be more sense in this case to why did it I didn't want to delete the comment. We'll get them when we need them. It's going to be a little bit heavier, but that's fine. So if we do this, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get the used limb. We'll just move it up here. We're going to want to set, what is it? World position override. No. Yes, that's correct. Set the world position override for the used limb to false. Then we're going to want to switch limbs. And then we're going to want to do the exact same thing, but setting it to true. Now, in case you're missing what's going on here, the limb switches halfway through. So we set it to false on the first limb, and then we set it to true on the second limb. So we switch hands. Basic, right? The basic setup we need for false is that we're not pulling up. So we still need to do this same basic phenomenon, but at the end we set our movement mode. No, there's no unused arm, or rather there's no used arm. So basically we're going to get the unused limb that we're using currently. So let's just delete this. Get used limb, unused rather. Just drag that in here. And now you can see that we are setting the grabbed object to this thing we're pulling from way the hell over here, grabbable object. We're just going to get grabbable object again to keep it a little bit cleaner. All right. And now for the last one, when we release everything, what we're going to want to do is get the used limb and then set it to false. Now that we've created these channels, it's a little bit easier for me to comprehend exactly what we're doing. Normally I would use code for this, and this might be a little bit bulky for blueprints. As much as I like the blueprints, it might be better if this was code. Still, it's fine. So we're going to go ahead and call this the pull up. We'll call this the switch. And then we'll call this the let go. Now I have a feeling, that that's not going to just work. So here you can see the target of self is wrong because I forgot to hook it up. Now, the problem is I'm not actually even vaguely sure that this is going to work, and debugging it might be a little bit challenging since I'm not really familiar with the structure I've built. All right, so here you can see that the right arm is floating. In fact, I've got some hands floating out there. I presume that's just a... Okay, so we're currently using the left arm, and the right arm is floating free in front of us because the world position for the right arm is not set. So the target for the right arm is attached to the camera, I believe, which is why it is floating fancy free. And then we just go up there with our left hand, and then we can click, and now you can see that the right arm is the one we're using. And if we click here, you can see that the left arm is now free. It's not, though. So the left arm target is free, but the left arm itself appears to still be stuck. I'm presuming that what happened is that the left arm is not unset. The left arm is still set to override the target position. If we click on simulation, we should be able to see what's going on. I think we have to tell it what we're possessing, right? No, that's not quite right. There is a way to tell it which object in the game world you are trying to simulate, but okay, so that actually worked. So it looks like the logic problem is in the switch. There's something wrong with that. And now there's a whole bunch of error invalid target for IK arm warnings, which is a little strange that the IK arms should be perfectly valid. Oh, look at this. They've got red balls all over the place. Is one of these arms upside down? Is that what the problem is? All right, well, let's go back into here. This is our first-person character. Here is our... Where's the window we're looking for? Where's the layout window? I must have accidentally closed it, but how can I get it back? There. It's called a viewport. So you can see we've got this red ball up here. This is right-hand target, and then this is left-hand target. So the reason we were having issues is that the right-hand target is simply sky high. We're going to lower it so that it's overlapping with the left-hand target, more or less. We'll figure that out later. But these are working fine. The problem is grabbing this. So when we grab things with the other hand, we never actually set the world position to false for the used hand. So we do, in fact, want to do that. So it's just this exact same code. And normally I would be against copying code, but in this case I want to... I mean, I suppose... the only difference is whether or not the movement mode gets set, and setting the movement mode twice isn't a big deal. So what we're going to do is we are going to not branch. We are just going to do it straight. So here's our left hand, kapow, and then our right hand, kapoof. And then we've got this left hand again. Up we go. And then the right hand, up. And the left hand. We seem to be stuck on the door. That's fine. We'll just pull. Just doing the basics here. And then up we go. Up we go. Wow, this one was a miserable episode. And as you can see, the IK arms still look like shit. We got lots of work to do to make this even vaguely... useful. We've got 2-meter long arms. We are quite an amazing reach we've got. We have a problem with Okay, so we're not resetting these to any decent neutral position. We got one hand in our crotch, and the other one is floating there. That's something I think I can fix, though. Let's take a look. That's interesting. These are both in the same place. Arm rest pauses here too. They should be going back to the arm rest pause, but they're not, and I think that that's the issue here. What we really want to do is set the position back to the arm rest pause if we unlock with our used limb. If the yeah, so right now the basic issue is that when we let go, our arm will continue to move around, but if both of our arms are free, if we have no used limbs, then we have the issue where one of those limbs doesn't have its hand retargeted. So what we need to do is we just need to retarget both if we find that there is nothing currently grabbed. So over here you can see that we set the arm rest position for our target, with the target being the unused limb. What we're going to want to do is, if we have nothing grabbed, I guess we'll put it over here. So if we have nothing grabbed, we're going to want to get the used limb, and do this again. Get unused limb target. I need this. The names are a little confusing. It's not target custom to target. It's a variable named target on the target object. That wasn't what I told you to delete. Thank you. And we're going to want to use this same value. Come on, seriously? Boom. Holding nothing. Reset the offhand. Now, I don't know about those warnings that I'm getting about the IK arm. I also don't know why this arm is doing this. There's a lot of stuff here that I'm not happy with. Now, the reason that it's doing that, so I don't understand why one of these arms is tracking with the camera and one isn't. Normally, I would assume that the problem is that we're setting one of their positions every frame to an object that is inside the camera, which is true. But I just created the thing where we set both of them to the same location every frame. Oh, I'm just an idiot. How do I delete this one? I need to learn how to delete lines. I was doing the thing I created only in the situations where we absolutely shouldn't do it. There we are. That's better. See that? We got our folded hands. So pop, and then pop, and then up we go. We can just do it like here. Up. Oh, no! We might have to do something where releasing is handled a little differently. But for now, it's fine. And the way I'll handle releasing a little bit differently is I won't untarget the arm immediately. I'll have a counter where the arm untargets after a while instead. We really float a long way outside of these. We might need to change that too. Still, the basic idea seems to work. The IK is incredibly primitive, and the elbows bend the wrong way because I don't know how to spawn a reversed arm, but we'll figure that all out eventually. That's plenty of time for me. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. I'll see you next week, Wednesday or Saturday. Bye.